John Wilkes Booth was a well-known American actor born in 1838 into a famous family in Maryland. He was considered talented and successful on stage, performing throughout the country and getting a strong reputation in the theater world. Despite his public success, Booth had intense political beliefs and was a devoted supporter of the Confederacy during the American Civil War. He strongly opposed the abolition of slavery and viewed President Lincoln as a threat to the Southern way of life. As the war progressed and the Confederacy moved toward defeat, Booth became increasingly bitter and frustrated. He believed that Lincoln's policies had destroyed the South and that efforts to expand rights for formerly enslaved people would permanently change American society in ways he opposed. Motivated by these beliefs, Booth came to see himself as someone acting in defense of the Confederate cause.
On the evening of April 14, 1865, just 5 days after Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to the Union, John Wilkes Booth put his plan into action. At approximately 10 p.m., Booth entered the presidential box at Ford's Theater, where Lincoln was watching the comedy Our American Cousin. Timing his attack to coincide with the laugh line in the play, Booth fired a single bullet into the back of Lincoln's head. As audience members reacted in confusion, Booth leapt from the box to the stage, breaking his leg in the process. He then yelled to the crowd, "Sic Semper Tyrannis," which translates to "Thus always to tyrants," in a protest against Lincoln and the American government, and escaped through the rear of the theater into the Maryland countryside. But Lincoln was not Booth's only target. His plan called for a coordinated attack designed to cripple the federal government. Lewis Powell was assigned to assassinate Secretary of State William Seward. Entering Seward's home under false pretenses, Powell launched an attack on Seward, stabbing him repeatedly and wounding several members of his household. Seward only survived because of a metal jaw brace worn after a recent carriage incident, which helped protect him from the knife. Meanwhile, George Atzerodt was tasked with killing Vice President Andrew Johnson at the Kirkwood House Hotel. However, Atzerodt lost his nerve. Instead of carrying out the assassination, he spent the evening drinking and never approached Johnson. The failure of these attacks meant that Lincoln was the conspiracy's only victim, but his death would have enormous consequences. Lincoln died the following morning, becoming the first U.S. president to be assassinated. A nationwide manhunt quickly followed. Booth and a fellow conspirator, David Harold, evaded capture for nearly 2 weeks before being tracked to a tobacco farm in Virginia. Federal troops surrounded the barn and demanded their surrender. Harold gave himself up, but Booth refused. The barn was set on fire, and Sergeant Boston Corbett shot Booth through the neck. Booth died several hours later. The government arrested 8 surviving conspirators. Tried before a military tribunal, 4 were sentenced to death. Lewis Powell, George Atzerodt, David Harold, and Mary Surratt, who became the first woman executed by the U.S. federal government. The remaining conspirators received prison sentences ranging from 6 years to life. Lincoln's assassination dramatically changed the course of the Reconstruction era. While Lincoln had favored a relatively moderate approach towards reuniting the nation after the Civil War, his successor, Andrew Johnson, pursued his own policies, leading to fierce conflicts with Congress and helping shape the turbulent and unsuccessful Reconstruction era. Lincoln's assassination cemented his legacy as a martyr for emancipation, liberty, and the preservation of the Union.